welcome to another episode of the Marathon Mindset Podcast. My name's Mike, your host, and today I have a guest from the real estate world, but also San Antonio. I'm just kind of floating around the same people that we've some mutual friends,
right on.
and kind of heard a lot of stories, a lot of things, and so all good things, and it's just kind of like, I need to have this guy on, man. So
I appreciate you bringing me on.
Absolutely. Carlos Garcia, welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So podcast is, kind of entrepreneurial business, et cetera. But being in the real estate world and whatnot, but you started off on the wholesale side. Right. So tell me a little bit, just kind of like how you got into it, where you're at now, and then, we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, man, this was I graduated in 2010 from UTSA.
Okay.
My degree was in real estate finance and development. And it was I graduated with business honors, and coming out of college, I was like, what am I going to do? I want to get in real estate. I had this dream of becoming a real estate developer.
Okay.
But it was far-fetched. Like, I was like, how do I do that? You need experience, you need funds. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility that goes into it. So I needed a foot in the door somewhere. So that first year, I was actually looking for work in real estate. I couldn't find it, and I got a job at Radio Shack. Just like, hey, let me
out of college.
Okay.
Let
me have some show that I have work ethic. I'm not too good to put in some work, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that, and around November. It was actually Thanksgiving. I was at my uncle's house, and we were having Thanksgiving dinner. And this is where I meet my a distant cousin, that was there at the dinner with us, and he was in real estate in Dallas. And we started talking about him and his success. And his dad was telling us, JD, he made $30,000 last year. Oh, last month. Not last year.
Yeah.
Last month. And I was like, man, $30,000 in a month. That's incredible. Like, I'm making $12 an hour. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So, so he started telling me a little bit about, investment real estate and what he was doing. And he mentioned New Western, and I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I was like, do y'all have an opportunity in San Antonio? He said, well, not yet, but we're thinking about opening up an office, but I'll let you know. So I said, okay, cool. Well, keep me posted. I'm fresh out of college. I'm hungry. I'm motivated. I'm ready to take on the world.
Yeah.
And a month later, I got a call from the broker. They had just opened up their doors here in San Antonio, and he invited me in for an interview. I was pretty much, one of the first interviews that he had in the city. So,
okay. What year was that?
This was in December 2010, going into 2011.
Okay.
So I interviewed with him. We talked, and he mentioned to me, like, yeah, man, we buy houses, we sell them to investors. This is our focus. He mentioned that we don't do the work on the properties. We're just a source for investment properties for investors. So I was like, man, this sounds great. It sounds like a great foot in the door. Like, what do I got to do? He's like, man, all you have to do is get your real estate license.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like, okay, well, hey, let me be upfront with you. I got a college degree. I did really well in school.
Yeah.
But I do have a smudge on my background.
Okay.
I said,
for the license.
Yeah, to get licensed.
Gotcha.
I said, I'm not sure if I can get my real estate license because I have a felony on my background. When I was 19 years old, I got convicted for drug possession, and so I don't know if that's going to disqualify me. And he encouraged me. He's like, look, man, just go out. I know Trek will make some exceptions.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you fall within those exceptions, and they may grant you a license. I said, all right, that sounds good. But what if I don't? What if I can't get my license?
Right.
What if they deny me? He says, well, I wish you the best. I was like, can I still work here? He's like,
no,
probably not.
Right, yeah.
And for me, I appreciated his honesty, but also appreciated his willingness to give me a shot.
Sure.
And so, I'm the kind of person, like, if you bet on me, I'll give you my all, and especially if things are working out, you'll get 110% of my effort.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what, I like it, man. I think I actually have a chance. So I did my research. I learned that my conviction did fall within that realm of exceptions.
Okay.
So I went after it. I did the courses, knocked them out. Being that I had a degree,
Yeah.
it allowed me to like kind of bypass some of the other courses.
Right.
And did all that. Took me 3 times to pass my state and national exam. Got that knocked out. And then came the background check. So they did all that, and one thing that I really picked up on was integrity. The Real Estate Commission is really focused on giving people license who have ethics and are honest people.
Right.
So I was honest with everything, gave them all the information they need, and it took about 6 months, but they issued me a probationary license. I had a nice polished college resume. I was involved in different school organizations. I was part of the Real Estate Entrepreneurs and Leaders organization at UTSA. I was a peer educator at UTSA. I would work on campus, and I was promoting responsible behavior. In regards to like drug use, alcohol, sexual responsibility, and so that was on my resume as well. I was an honor student, and in high school, I mean, I was a C student, so it really like blew my mind that I can achieve these type of levels of scholastic success.
I just want to get the time frame. So like when you got out of high school, and then from the time when you applied for your license, I said that was 2011. So like,
yeah, I graduated in 2001.
2001. Okay.
So from high school.
Gotcha.
2001. Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. So around 2003, like right at the end of 2003 is when I, actually after I graduated high school, a year later, I picked up, I got in trouble, picked up a felony, and then I ended up spending 2 years. I did 2 years incarcerated.
Okay.
Some of it was in the state, some of it was in a federal institution. But when it was all said and done, it was around 2000, at the end of 2003, going to 2004.
Okay.
So, and then from there, I started,
working on yourself.
Working on myself. Yeah. I had 3 kids already. It was definitely a long road. But yeah, so I got the probationary license, and that next month, I sold my first house.
So you got the probationary license. They let you start,
mm-hmm.
and then now you're in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You're with New Western.
Yeah, I'm motivated.
Motivated.
Man, there's no limit. I can accomplish anything. I felt like, at that moment, anything's possible. Here I'm this person that went from, having this adversity. I overcame the adversity through my effort and really putting in the work.
Yeah.
And opportunity presented itself, and I was prepared for that opportunity, and I took advantage of it.
Yeah.
And once they let me in, and I had my shot, I was like, man, I'm gonna give it my all, because this is the opportunity I've been looking for, and I did, and I worked really hard, and I became, their top sales agent. I think the first month I sold a house. The second month I sold like 2. The third month I sold like 8. Okay. So I told my broker, I was like, man, I'm gonna be your top sales agent.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be your number one guy.
Yeah.
And but that was something about me. I always strive to be the best that I can be, because
they gave you the opportunity, and
right. Well, it's also part of the character, right? I think having this habit of who you are and knowing who you are, and knowing that whenever you do something, you give your best effort.
Yeah. Then
the results are gonna come. And if you shoot for the moon, you land amongst the stars. That's type of mindset, right?
My buddy used to tell me that.
So it started working out, to say the least.
So how long because we spoke off air,
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer with New Western right now.
Right.
So how long were you with New Western from when you started till now?
Man, 12 long years.
12 years.
Yeah. So it was a great journey, great experience, man. Like,
and you weren't only just an associate, like you became like in management.
Right. I became a general manager.
Okay.
So the progression was, my first year with the company, I was in sales.
Okay.
My second year, they moved me into the acquisition role, where my job was to go out and source properties for the company and for the investors. So I'd go look for them and find them, and then the sales team would sell them, or I'd sell them myself. So I became one of their top acquisition agents in the company as well.
Okay.
And did that for 4 years, and then I got my broker's license, and I asked for more responsibility. My broker promoted me to assistant general manager. Did that for a year, and then at that point, I was like, man, I need more responsibility, and I want to take on building a team. So I created a case for myself to open up the secondary location in San Antonio, and I presented it to the CEO, the COO, and my broker, and got them all on board. They gave me the shot, and I went and built their second team, which was our Northwest team in 2016, and that became a success, and it just kept growing, and we kept rolling.
How big did you get it? To how many people?
I mean, a healthy number for our brokerage and our teams were about 15. Okay. Once you get to about 20, it's hard to manage that many people.
Yeah, I bet.
But about 10 to 15, solid team, and we did a lot of business. We would, we're averaging about 20 deals a month.
Okay.
Wow. Which was pretty decent, and from there, I in 2019, at the end of 2018, I came back to the central office, took over that office, and got that up to be the number 4 office in the company.
Wow.
So I was always shooting for those higher achievements.
Are they only in Texas? Or
no, they're all over the nation. So the company has been growing. It started in Texas, but it had continued to expand from Texas to California to Florida, and every other major city in the U.S. In between. I mean, it's grown from within. So, but yeah, it's been massive growth, and right around the end of this, or the beginning of this year, is really when I started sensing there was a time. It was a time for change, and it was a time for me to
within the company, or with you.
Yeah, within the company. Because I had I think I've reached the highest that I could go. Okay. And I was like, all right, well, things are changing, and I want to continue growth, and I have this saying, right, to always level up. That's my saying. That's what I live by, and I'm always trying to figure out ways, how can I continue to grow. Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, next level for me is start something on your own. Take a bet on yourself. Yeah. You want to level up, go run your own show. Yeah. So I decided to part ways, and I have a whole lot of respect for everybody that's there, everybody that gave me the opportunity. Yeah. And but yeah, I ended up taking the leap. And
so it's called Level Up Realty.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I created my own brokerage called Level Up Realty.
I like it, man. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, elevate your journey with Level Up Realty.
Love it. That's a dope. So that just started this month?
I actually created that, and it was around March. Okay. So just been building the foundation of it.
Cool, man.
It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. And,
absolutely.
I took it for granted. Just looking back, it's like, man, I actually had a lot of things that were already laid out for me. So but it made me realize, okay, this is where I need to sharpen the sword. This is where I need to get better. This is where I need to give attention to. So now just going down that path of entrepreneurship to
like managing a team of that size for that amount of time, like that's a lot of growth already. Like, going from just being a salesperson and then going into that role of leadership, right? Tell me, like, when we're talking about leadership, like, how do you feel like when you started and now, like, and what's been the biggest challenge, like, you know what I'm saying, as far as leadership goes, because like, when you're talking about people, you're managing people, you're, all of that. I mean,
it's one of those things that just requires a lot of patience. And you have to be a problem solver. Yeah. And you have to maintain your poise and your calmness, because things can hit the fan really fast, and and people get frazzled sometimes, and they freak out, and you have to find solutions, and sometimes people will try to get you to freak out with them. Yeah. And you have to take a step back, and one thing that I would always do is I learned about breathing. Just breathing techniques to just kind of calm down and,
Yeah.
assess the situation. What are the facts? And when it comes to leadership, one thing that I was, that constantly came up was conflict with agents.
Yeah.
A lot of times there was agent conflict within each other, fighting over leads, investors, who works with who.
Right.
Will this person contact me? Well, this person's on my list. And,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, well, what's going on here? Like, you have to really try to figure out who's doing the work, who's not, who's dropping the ball,
Right.
What's the right thing to do. And that's really the thing about leadership is, you have to understand what's the right thing to do and how to lead people down the path to do the right things consistently. So you're constantly in this point where you're trying to mold behavior change. And sometimes people don't want to change their behavior. Sometimes people are stuck in their ways, and that's okay. But, at some point, something's got to give. And if that means, parting ways, then that's what we do.
Yeah.
Or if it means personal growth and change, and there where someone's willing to take that self-reflection and assessment, saying, okay, well, where am I wrong? How can I improve? How can I do better? How can I prevent the situation from coming up next time? That's really was the thing that I would focus on when it came to leadership. But also, I want to help people find, their path of personal development and growth, but actually to desire it,
Yeah.
I can say, hey, I want you to grow all you
it.
want, but you got to want it. Like, if you don't want that growth, if you don't want to change, if you don't want to level up, and you don't want to, take your skill set to the next level, then it's not going to work, because you either one or two things are happening, right? You're either growing or you're regressing. Right. We don't stay still. We don't stay the same.
Right.
So I try to, paint that picture and just get people to realize, like, okay, where am I and which way am I going? Which way do I want to go?
Yeah. My saying is always moving forward.
There you go.
That's constantly, if we're not, like you said, we're not staying still, we're not going backwards, just moving forward. Mm-hmm. Fix the plane while it's in the air. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That type of thing.
One foot in front of the other, right?
That's it.
That's, you have it's the marathon mindset, right? So
yeah.
I've ran a few marathons, and it's like, man, once you get to mile 18, it's like, man, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Legs are cramping.
So you how many marathons have you run?
I ran 4.
Really?
Yeah. My last one was in 2019, and it was my fastest marathon.
Okay.
I ran it in 3 hours and 39 minutes. It was around an average 3:39, not 8-minute 39-second pace.
Yeah.
But man, I felt like I conquered it, because I was able to. If you ever ran a marathon, like, at the end, your legs are cramping and
everything wants to shut down.
Everything wants to shut down. And my goal was, like, man, at the end I'm gonna run a marathon. At the end, I'll be able to walk to my car.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to walk to my car,
right.
and yeah, I did that on my last one.
That's awesome, man. So I'm gonna just one more thing on leadership. So the question is, what has made you a better leader?
Well, I have to give credit to my leadership coach, Dr. Farlow, from Wolf Leadership.
Okay.
I hired him in 2016. So he has a PhD in organizational leadership. He was also a pilot in the Navy. Okay. He worked for Dell Computers for, I think, about 10 years. So he had a lot of leadership experience, and just somebody that, I respect. But having a coach, somebody to guide me and help me, kind of see my blind spots is one thing. The other thing is just having a desire to want to be a leader. Leadership's not for everybody. It's hard. And, I have this desire, this fire to make the world a better place. And I understand that it starts with my immediate circle. So first is my family, and then second is the people that I work with. Because there's not enough good leaders out there. There's a lot of leaders out there. I've experienced poor leadership. Mm-hmm. I've been around people that would just lead you to to a car crash, and I've been around leaders that lead you to the top of a mountain. And I want to be somebody that brings out the best in people, and make that contribution to this world while I'm here. Because life's short. And in my mind, it's part of God's work to get out there and spread goodness and love, and through leadership. And that's really what's helped me want to be a leader and be a better leader every day.
How did you know to seek out this person for the coach?
Well, so my idea was when I became a general manager, I was like, okay, I need to learn leadership, right? So I started looking at PhD courses because I got my master's in business.
Okay.
And so I was like, maybe I get a PhD in organizational leadership. So I started looking into that, and then I was like, man, this is gonna take a long time. I'm gonna have to focus on the education. I had to ask myself, am I really gonna be able to build this business and succeed and deliver the results that I need to deliver while I'm in college and while I'm raising a family of 7? You know,
7,
right?
7,
Yeah. And I was like, man,
6 kids.
Yeah. Well, I have 7 kids, 5 boys, 2 girls.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's you know, at that time it wasn't 7. I think it was a little bit less because you know it was probably 5.
Okay.
The girls came later on.
Okay.
But my wife and my boys. But it was something that you know I had to reflect on. I was like, the time isn't going to be there.
Right.
So I said, I need somebody who has the credentials
Right.
that I can go to and I can leverage their knowledge and actually use that to help me become a better leader. And that's when I started looking online. I came across Dr. Farlow's profile. And I was like, oh, that's my guy right there. Let me hit him up. And I reached out to him, had a consultation. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's go.
And so it was like virtual coaching? Or?
No, it was in person.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was in person.
Okay.
And I'd go to his office and meet with him once a month.
Nice.
And, you know, he would just ask me, what's going on? What are your challenges? And I'd share what was going on. And he would just, you know, he would always ask questions, you know. Yeah. Hey, well, have you thought about this? And have you thought about that? What happens if you did this? So just run scenarios through my head. And, you know, it's kind of that just opening up my mind to different possibilities and different, you know, solutions to whatever it is that I was dealing with.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. Where are you from originally?
I'm from here, San Antonio. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up on the west side of town.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of moved around, but my roots are on the west side, you know.
Okay.
I was living out there from 4th grade all the way up to my freshman year of high school. So, you know.
So where'd you go to high school?
I actually graduated from Brackenridge, but my freshman year, I went to Lanier High School.
Okay.
Middle school, I went to Rhodes Middle School.
Okay.
So, and then elementary, I went to Rodriguez Elementary, it's right there by Our Lady of the Lake University.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2 years of high school, in my sophomore year and my junior year, I moved to Euless, Texas, and I went to Euless Trinity High School.
Okay.
For a short period of time. And then my senior year, I bounced back down to San Antonio, and I ended up graduating from Brackenridge.
So I heard something that you played football.
Yeah.
So you played a lot of sports, or just football?
I played football from Pee-wee. Like I was 9 years old all the way up to my senior year of high school. So football was something that, you know, kind of kept me out of trouble.
Okay.
Growing up. I grew up in the 90s, you know, and so it was a lot of gangs, drugs. It was real hostile out in the west side.
Yeah.
But since I played sports, I mean, and I would always be at practice, that was something that kept me out of the streets. And, you know, once high school was over, it's like, you know, what now? Yeah, what now?
Brothers, sisters?
Yeah. So 2 brothers. I'm the oldest.
Okay.
I have 1 sister. And my youngest brother, he passed away when he was 16. And then I have my brother Frank. He's a year younger than me.
Okay.
And we work together. He's actually an agent under my brokerage. But
cool.
He's managing our flip project right now. So
cool. We'll get into that here in a minute.
Yep.
So it was after high school, and we're trying to figure it out, and you get busted, and I'm just trying to figure out like where, like your inspiration, like, you know what I'm saying, like from where. I mean, I'm guessing that you get out.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. Yep. Absolutely.
So then you're like, I got a second chance.
Yeah. So you know, while I was in there, man, every day felt like an eternity. You know, and it was like, man, this sucks.
Before you get in there, because when you said that you're the oldest, it like something, I don't know, we're kind of very similar. Mm-hmm. I'm the oldest of 3 brothers, and I was thinking about what you said about the West Side, and thinking about what you said about like just, you know, there's all these things going on, and you know, people keeping you out of trouble, football keeping you out of trouble, like. Mm-hmm. preparing for this interview, I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about people that were in my life, and thinking about situations where it was like pulling you into that life, but having somebody going, nah, that's not for you. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, were you, when that happened, was it just because you were by yourself? Were there not people, was it the people around you?
Yeah, environment.
The environment?
Yeah, it had a lot to do with the environment because at 17, after, I graduated when I was 17, turning 18. And, my mom, she stayed in Dallas.
Okay.
So I was far from her. And I actually moved back down to San Antonio with my stepdad. And so, we had, some differences. And he ended up, kicking me out. And it's like, man, but my behaviors, kind of warranted it. I was out there in the streets, hanging out with my friends, and, just getting into all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Oh.
And, so I was on my own, and I had to figure it out. And so I met this girl. She ended up, letting me stay with her. And I was kind of hopping around, with her and some friends, staying at their houses and just kind of, trying to survive, really.
Yeah.
So because I had all that freedom,
Yeah.
I made a bunch of poor decisions.
Okay.
I really didn't have the guidance. But growing up through childhood and just kind of that adolescence, my mom's family, really good, Catholic, faith oriented, they always instilled that in me. And then, on my dad's side, it's a little bit more, liberal,
Okay.
do whatever they want.
Sure.
And, my dad spent, majority of my life in prison. So, I never really saw him. But, that wasn't an excuse. Like, my stepdad was there. He did his best, but he was still a gangster in his own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, I had this kind of identity confusion, like, who am I? Who am I going to become? It's kind of pulling me one way or another. But when I had this freedom, I gravitated towards, all the bad stuff, the gangster stuff, all that, that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
And there was no discipline, anything like that. And, it led to these consequences that I had to experience at a young age. But, going through that process, going through the incarceration, coming home, I'm like, man, there's got to be a better way. Now, by the time I come out, I already have 2 children, 2 different girls. And I'm like, all right, I have a lot of responsibility already. Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
Well, when I come home, I meet another girl, and I get her pregnant. And then it's like, man, now I got 3.
Yeah.
I got 2 boys. I got 1 on the way. And I'm like, all right, man, things are getting real, really fast.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? I mean, I felt like the world was just crushing me.
Yeah.
But I was still alive, and I was like, man, I gotta do something.
Right.
But thankfully at that, at that point, my son, my third son, his mother, Tracy, she's the one that influenced me to go to college.
Okay.
So she was that little beacon of light.
Yeah.
That somebody was able to kind of guide me and help me get on the right path. Because for myself, I mean, I was just my own worst enemy. Like, I would, do anything and everything that I want with no boundaries, and
Right.
It just led to just the worst consequences. So,
Yeah.
having somebody like that around me really helped me make better decisions.
That's awesome.
No,
I mean, and I asked that question just because of the inspiration part of, okay, I'm gonna go to school, right? I mean, you graduated with honors, like you got your MBA. Like, most people stop,
right?
Like, after they get their bachelor's, like, bro, I got it. I don't want to keep going. That's kind of where I went. But my college was like almost 10 years too. It was like 9 years. Like, I literally, parents were like, you're going to school, and I was like, I'm doing it for them. But then at the same time, it was like, I need to finish, bro. Like, this has already been 4, it's supposed to be 4 years. I'm like 5, 6. I'm like, but I went.
Van Wilder.
Yeah. But it was more of like, I wanted to go do my own thing.
Right.
And I still had to finish. And so I was working full time, trying to do it part time. but then it's like, okay, you stop, but you went further. You went MBA, and so I was trying to figure that out. I'm going like, okay,
Right.
I know there was a past, and then I'm like, okay, got this education, and I'm like, I'm just wondering what made you want to do that?
Well, the kids were the first thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's like first I thought about my children, and then I thought about who I am at that time, right? Who am I going to be as a father? Am I going to be the man that like makes up every excuse and be like, well, my dad didn't do this, or my dad didn't do that, or my dad wasn't there for me, and I don't know, nobody showed me, and
Right.
I was like, man, that's not acceptable,
Right.
and it wasn't acceptable for Tracy either, and so I was like, I want to be somebody better, I made these children, I'm responsible for them, and a good man, I want to be a good man, takes care of his responsibilities. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna find a way to take care of them and be there for them. Being there for them was important. One thing about my dad was, even though he wasn't there, he would always write me letters. So he was like, he showed that he cared through his letters,
Right.
and he would send me artwork and drawings, and I was like, oh, my dad loves me. But every time my dad came home, something happens, he's back up in there, and I'm like, man, well, there he goes. See you later, Dad. And it got old. But that's not who I wanted to be for my children. I was like, man, I'm gonna be somebody that they can be proud of. I'm gonna be somebody that's gonna help them become somebody in their life.
Right.
And so that was the first motivation, right? That was the first inspiration. Secondly was, okay, thinking about myself and like, how am I gonna become this person?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I started doing my own self-assessment. What do I lack? Well, I grew up in this area, in this environment, right? So the way we would speak, this was the first thing, was how would we speak? And it was nothing but slang.
Yeah.
Nothing but slang. So I didn't even speak correct English.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I need to at least, go in there and start sharpening the sword, and like, where am I going to get this education from? Yeah. Who's going to teach me? Nobody's just going to spend time and just teach me. So I found it through going to college. I was like, okay, if I go to college, it's going to put me in an environment, a learning environment, where I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to have to give presentations and speeches, and I'm going to have to learn a lot. I'm going to have to reprogram my own whole mind. But when you think about like what separates someone who's successful, super successful, versus someone who's not,
right?
And it's all about how they use their brain, right? So if I don't know how to use my brain, I'll never get there. Yeah. So let's put myself in a learning environment so I can start to learn to use my brain. But also on top of that, I can go to college and I can try to cheat my way through it and do the bare minimum. Yeah. But then what happens then? Then that's just a waste of education. That's a waste of money. I was like, no. And thankfully, Tracy was somebody that helped me, stay on this path to where, I did the work. I put in the effort. I struggled. I failed. I got back up. I went back at it. She would say, hey, go to the tutoring labs, do these things, join these organizations. And, man, I did anything and everything under the sun that can help polish up my mind, so that way I can become a better person, because that is our greatest asset. Is this up here, and then what are we feeding it, what are we putting into it? So right. So that was also a motivation, right? It's like, in order for me to change, I need to change my mind.
Yeah.
And that's what started it all.
And Tracy, she's your wife now,
yeah,
right?
She's my wife. We've been together 18 years, and we have
Congrats,
5 children together.
That's awesome.
3 boys, 2 girls.
Congrats, man. That's awesome. So Tracy, was she from San Antonio or?
Yeah, well, she's actually she was born in the Philippines. Her dad's Air Force, retired Air Force, but she lived in San Antonio the majority of her life.
Okay.
But yeah, so her brother played basketball at John Jay High School, and so she has 2 older brothers. They were both athletes. So, okay. But we have that kind of connection there as well.
So like, how did they receive you when y'all first got together?
Oh man, who is this guy? Definitely a different image. Back then my clothes were a lot baggier. I was wearing chains, gold chains, and at one point I even had like a grill of like,
oh no way,
diamonds in my grill and all that stuff. I mean, I was that guy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So they were probably questioning, her decision with who she chose to be with.
You know what I keep thinking about? I keep thinking about Eric Thomas and his wife and like his story, and kind of like how she kind of like helped it's
right.
That's
right.
what I kept thinking
about. She saw something. She saw potential in me.
Yeah. That's cool.
But she also, one thing that really attracted me to her was her willingness to help me just continue to improve, and she cared like who I was becoming.
There's this common thread, and I kind of seen it through your life already, just by what you're saying, is like this people pouring into you, right? Like this, it's kind of the word I keep hearing is mentoring, right? And it's funny how in our life, like we don't really look for a mentor,
right?
But it just kind of like happens where the people that get placed in your life, like that's how I got started in real estate. Whereas I had my license, I moved to San Antonio. I was like you, I was eager. I got my license.
Right.
I have a degree. I should get picked up by any brokerage right now. Let's go. I'm ready to go.
Right.
And then they're like telling me all the good, but I'm like, what's the bad?
Yeah.
And nobody would tell me the bad till finally one manager did. And then I was like, oh, I don't have that. I don't have 6 months of reserves and whatever.
Right.
I'm going to go get a job at a bank. And then they were like, no, wait, hold on. And we got somebody who's looking for an assistant. And I was like, what's that?
Right.
And they just needed somebody to help and blah, blah, blah. But I'm licensed. They're like, yeah, but you can help show houses.
Right.
That turned into like 7 years of mentorship that was invaluable. Right. And it just kind of like you continue to have, and then all of a sudden I'm doing the same for somebody else. You know what I mean? And so like all of those interactions with people that pour into you,
the relationships, you build these relationships. And the thing about it though is that you have to be willing to accept it. That's true. You have to seek it out, and then two, when it does come to you as an opportunity, you have to be willing to accept it. A lot of times I do see people put up a wall and say, I don't need that. I don't need your help. I can do this on my own. Well, the reality is like we can't do it all on our own. No. It takes a team of people to continue to do something and create something worth worth living for. And so for me, whenever I sought out the help, I received it. And whenever I was in needing help but I didn't ask for it, it showed up, and I was like, well, I actually do need that. Yeah. You know what? You're willing to help me out. I can use that help right now. Yeah. I appreciate it,
Something happened when after I talked to you about coming on here, I saw a couple of videos, and when you were talking about your education, and you were talking about how the continuous to grow, I guess it was after you made money in real estate, and then it was like you said you were regressing.
Yeah, because when you're doing well and everything's taken care of. Yeah. Well, if you have that disposable income, it's easy to make decisions that could put you in a regressive state. Some of those for me were like going out and hanging out at the happy hours a little too long, drinking excessive alcohol, drinking all those type of things, which led to bad decisions. And then now those start to become habits, and it's like, okay, now the money's not a blessing. Now the money is a curse because you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing with it. Yeah. And, so I recognize that, and thankfully, my wife helped me recognize it as well. Yeah. She's like, hey, I think we're going in the wrong direction. Yeah. Like, you need to snap out of it. And I was like, you're right. Let me get it together, Yeah. And, but always being mindful. And that's the thing is like, I learned that to receive feedback and criticism, not in a defensive way or to be offended by it. I look at it as like, man, if you're telling me something about myself, there's a message there that I need to pay attention to. Because if I don't, that could be the thing that takes me out. And I'm not gonna, that's the chink in the armor is what I see it as. Like, man, they're exposing a chink in my armor, and don't get defensive about it and try to,
because you can't see it. They can see it.
They can see it.
You're not seeing it right now for some reason.
Exactly. Whatever that is. So even though it might sting in the moment, that's why I usually like to take a pause and just take a deep breath.
That's why I tell my wife, I'm like,
process.
Give me a minute. like she operates where she wants to kind of solve it all right now. And she's going to hate me for saying this, but like, I like to just process it and then like, let's come back and you know what I mean? Like, because I don't want to get upset. I don't want to get, defensive. Yeah. And I know that's how, that's how my button, right? So it's like, all right, well, let's hold on.
Yeah. Well, because the first reaction, especially if there's the emotion of anger present, then it's not going to be the best response. So you do have to take a step back and process it, so that way you can think through your responses. What's the best way to respond to this, or how much truth is in what they're saying, and what am I going to do about it? Right? Because not only do I like to receive it, I like to take action, as fast as possible. So by the time something else comes up, I'm like, nah, I've already worked on that.
Right now, I think my kid is the one that's showing me the kinks or the chinks in the armor. It's weird, right?
Kids would do it, man. Oh, that's funny you say that, because after so many children, each one has taught me something new.
I bet.
So I'm always going back, and I'm like, okay. And especially with my youngest ones, and I'm like, right now I'm like, I have a 1-year-old, I have a 5-year-old, and I have a 7-year-old.
Oh wow!
And so they've really been teaching me a lot about patience.
And they're the girls.
They're my 2 youngest are the girls, and then my 7-year-old's a boy.
Okay.
But they've really taught me how to really hone in being patient, because in the beginning with my 3 older ones, the mothers were doing the raising. Okay. They're raising them, and so I wasn't really there in those times. I was really working on myself, or working on my education, or working on work. And so I bypassed that. So now with the younger ones, I'm a little bit more, a lot more involved, a lot more present. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I see what you're going through. No,
I have an 8-year-old girl, and she's at that point where she's so blunt, but it's so like in a nice way. But it's still blunt. Like, it's still, you're like, man, that hurts. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you're like, nah, it's real.
They have no filter.
No,
and they're going to let you know. The way I see it is like, I feel like, man, God sends us messages in different ways. And sometimes it's through our children. And it's like, hey, you're not supposed to talk to me like that. I'm your dad. But But I see what you're saying.
That's exactly what happened this weekend. That's funny. That's funny that you said that. I was like, hey, don't talk to me like that. But like, you know what? Like, you're right.
You got a point.
Yeah. I was like, man. And it was funny you say how God talks to us to different people. Like, we went to church Sunday, and we had a visiting priest, and his message at the end was like telling us about his father experience, and he's from Africa, and he was from abusive family. And he started going through this whole like really disturbing story about him and his dad. And he said his message was, he was telling us all that because he was like, sometimes you learn from your parents what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was funny, like she heard all of his message and was like, Dad, we need to da-da-da-da. And I'm like, dang.
You remember what they said at church?
Yeah, like, she heard all of that, but it didn't. I don't know. It was weird, but yeah.
Just in case you didn't get that message,
right? Yeah, I'm letting you know. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
So what is? We're talking about your success now. We're talking about where family. You're in a good place. What has helped you the most be successful?
Well, I mean, it's a desire to succeed. I think that's really what it comes down to. When you have a burning desire for something, that's all you really need, in terms of like to take action. Yeah. So I have a desire for growth. I have a desire for success. I remind myself what I'm doing, and that's writing my story. Every day it's another page. Every day. Every month, it's another chapter. It's something that you're putting into that story, and you have to reflect and say, okay, well, where am I going? Is this writing the story of success that I really want to tell when it's all said and done, right? Because in life, when it's over, because eventually it will be. What do you want? How do you want it to end? And that was a question I asked myself in the beginning when I started my journey into growth and transformation. I said I wanted to create the greatest success story ever, like that I could ever write. And so I'm always keeping that in my mind. Am I writing my success story right now? Now, adversity is part of it. Sure. Challenges are part of it. Struggles part of it. Failure is part of it. It's all part of the process. Right. You got to go through it. But, I have to make sure that I am doing the work that is leading me there, right? And I've studied people that have become successful. Yeah. And there's this ladder or this mountain that they climb, and you get to the top, and then there's this bigger one, and they step back, and then they go back up. So the ups and downs are all part of it, but the ones that really sustain it are the ones that never give up, and the ones that are always going forward.
Yeah, 100%. Man. It's like there's so many like parallels that I just keep hearing when you're talking about your life, and it's like, but at the same time, like it's unique to you, and my questions are just more and more, because it's like, for me, I want to see how that book turns out, right?
Right
you know what I mean? And because of the ups and downs, right? And because of the you got back up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's not whether they're big falls or small falls or whatever, as long as we're, like you said, we're still breathing, we can still keep going. So tell us, I kind of know a little bit because I see your Instagram, but what's the morning routine like?
Well,
has it always been that way?
Yeah. So currently, right now, it's Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings. I get up at 4 a.m. and I go to the gym. So I have this regimen, this routine that I live with, and on those days, I'm always up and working up at 5 a.m. That's what gets my day going. Tuesdays and Thursdays, my wife, she does a 5:30 a.m. Workout class, so she goes and gets her her work in, and so we kind of now we kind of take turns, right? So the kids are asleep, so I'll stay there and be with the kids while she gets her workout in, and then from there after that, it's time to get ready, get to work and get after it. So with the time that I have now. It's different. It's a lot different now, just because when I was, with New Western, that Monday through Friday was my routine. 5 a.m. workout or run. I was doing that daily.
Okay.
But since time has changed and our schedules have changed, I've been able to be a little bit more flexible.
Yeah.
But it's always about working out. Even if I don't get it done in the morning, I get it done in the afternoon. Which is on a Tuesday or Thursday, and then Saturday and Sunday, our routine as well, morning workouts. But I always have to start it with some action, because the way I see it is like the body, and the mind are connected. So you have to start your day getting a little bit uncomfortable, getting out there, and this is going to be the hardest part of the day. This is what I see. It's the hardest part of the day. I'm up early, and the workout I'm about to go do is going to be very, very intense. And I know I'm going to feel every minute of it, but I'm going to enjoy it as well, because now I got momentum to my day. And then everything else that I do and I take on the rest of the day is easy.
Yeah. Do you ever do, or have you ever done like meditation or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely.
Or do you like, I'm asking just selfishly, like, I know that some people have like their workout, they do like either some alone time, like, you know what I mean? And when you're talking with successful people, like their morning routines kind of differ, but they're similar in most ways.
Yeah. So I've went through like so many different like variations of meditating and journaling. At one point, there was this thing called Wake Up Warrior, and it was this program. It was online, but they encourage you to meditate, to work out, to meditate, to journal, and I would do those things, and it was really helpful. I enjoyed it, but now I found a routine that works that I stick with right now, but it's always been some type of incorporation of meditation, but I like to get that in and do the practice of yoga, because yoga it's really I don't know. It's an interesting practice to where it connects the mind and body, and you attach the breathing into your flow, but also like when you're moving and your body's real tense, like there's these points of pain, right? And through your breath, you have to release that tension, and through that movement, you're releasing that tension. But it also it's releasing something mentally where that's a barrier, that's a block. That's why. some people that practice yoga, they'll cry in their practice, right? Because they're releasing the tension, they're releasing the burdens that they've carried with them. And so, finding that in yoga and being able to meditate on those things and being able to release whatever it is that's on my mind that's holding me back or weighing on me, and process it through physical movement, that's where I've been able to do that. And, in terms of journaling, I don't do it too often.
Yeah.
I'll write down my goals, write down my vision, but I'm more of an action taker.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what do I have to do? All right, let me go get it done. Check the boxes. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's
dope. That's interesting. I think that the mind or the body connection is definitely, I believe in that 100%, just because recently for me, I've been more consistent. And then when I heard Chris Paul say it, he was talking about stacking, like your wins, right? Your blocks or whatever. And now that I'm seeing that more consistently, like I feel it, I see it in everything.
Right.
And so now like it's just kind of like fine tuning, like like the routine, like what's better here with the food and here this and that. And so like when you dial in, it's weird.
Well, it's always related to action, because sometimes people want to take a step back and stand still and not do anything, but it's necessary to rest, don't get me wrong, but I think it's more important to take some type of action daily, because we have to ask yourself this question, right? Do I eat every day? Right? If you do, well, then you should probably exercise every day. Right? Because there's that connection, right? In terms of like, how am I treating my body? And this is the moneymaker, right? If you can't move, if you can't get out of bed, if you can't go anywhere, man, you're not gonna produce any results. So take care of this first, and take care of your mind, because without the mind, if you can't think, and if you can't think clearly, then, or if you're emotionally unstable, it's just going to lead to negative things. So that's always like at the core for me, and David Goggins is probably at the most intense level of this, but man, what he's saying is so true. It's like, man, you should get some action, some work in every single day.
You have no excuse not to.
There's no excuse.
He's like, you have a floor,
man, do some push-ups, do some sit-ups, man, 30 minutes, carve out some time so that way you can be present, because whenever you are engaged in some type of activity, your mind is going to get off of your thoughts of thinking about the future or thinking about the past, and bring you to the present moment. And I think that's really important too, is, understanding the purpose behind the activity, because if you're doing this constantly, when it's time to get to work, get to the office, all right, what do we got to do? Right. All right, what do I have to do? I have to write an offer? Cool. All right, do I have to show a house? I'll go show a house. Whatever it is, you're not going to complain about it, because you take action, to whatever intensity that you do. And then that's the other thing, right? How intense do I want to be with it? Right. How high do I want to climb? How much success do I want to experience? Because there's going to be a price to pay. Pay for that. So, so I think the way we move and the habits that we create determine, exactly where we're going and who we are and who we're becoming.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. Let's get back to your flip, because we touched on it really briefly, and we talked about it offline. But have you done other flips before?
So I've done some owner finance. I did this around 2015. I bought some houses, owner finance them, but I really didn't touch them.
Okay.
There were cheap houses, slap a little bit of lipstick on them. Put a for sale sign in my yard, sold them owner finance, created a mortgage, created a note, sold the note. I was in and out. Okay. And then, at New Western, we bought and sold houses to investors. So we didn't touch them at all. Right. In terms of my homestead, like, I would invest in my house and take on these projects in my house. But my wife, I give her the credit for that, because she always pushed me, and I just shout out the cash. I was like, all right, cool.
She picked everything.
Yeah. So then after I left New Western, I was like, okay, I need to do something, right? I need to take on a project or something. And my brother, you know, had been pushing me to like, hey, let's do a flip.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, let's do it. But you're gonna manage the rehab. He's like, I got it, bro. Don't worry about it. So, so
it takes time.
It does take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna do it. Right. So we're looking. We find this house, and man, it needs a lot of work. I'm talking about. It's on the south side.
Okay.
And I walk in and I walk right out. Like, this house smells horrible. I'm like, man, this is bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, no way. I don't want to do it. He's like, bro, it's cheap. I was like, yeah, I know it's cheap, but we're gonna do like, this is a $50,000-$60,000 rehab. Might even be 70. I don't know. And he's like, no, bro, it's gonna be, you know, 30, 40, 50 tops. I'm like, you know what? I looked at the numbers. I was like, you know what? Worst case scenario, even if we did spend the numbers that I'm suggesting or thinking, well, there's some money to be made here.
Okay.
And
so you bought it.
So I bought it, right?
Okay.
I bought it, and we start the project. It's going, and my brother's like, yeah, bro, this house needs a lot. So we're at a point where we've already gutted it, but he's trashed it out, he's cleaned it out, and we've redone siding, foundation, new roof. We got the electrical in, so he's doing the whole thing. It's a small house, 1,100 square feet,
okay.
So it's manageable.
Sure.
But I'm really grateful that he's really taking on this project and leading it. But he's also been able to use this project as a way to get his sons involved, because my brother also has 5 boys.
Oh wow.
As well. So he's got his 2 oldest sons that are there, you know, being the laborers, helping, working. So he's found purpose in this project, and he's really motivated, and he's getting it done. And that's one thing that, you know, me and my brother, we've been through a lot together. Now my brother, we're cut from the same cloth.
I got you.
He's gone through a lot of adversity. I mean, probably more than I have, because he's a little bit more hard-headed than me.
Okay.
But he learns through, you know, going through the process, right? So,
sure.
So I found purpose in this, doing it with him, but also being able to take a home in this area of town. We found purpose in the work. It's like, okay, I want to do this. I want to actually improve the community.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to bring a good product to the south side of town or the west side of town. It doesn't really matter, you know, in these areas, and give something of quality, you know, not do a rehab that's going to cut corners, but do something that where they buy it, they're not going to have a problem, because everything's new.
Right.
You know, and that's what this project is for us.
Cool.
And how it shakes out, we'll see. But we've prayed over it. It's in God's hands, and so I feel like it's all going to work out.
I wish you the best on it, man. That's
Thank
awesome. So your brokerage, what's been the hardest part so far? I know we talked about, because you're having to create it from scratch. I've done that, and I know I'm going to tell you a story.
Okay.
I had a company. I'm not going to say the company's name. They kind of do what they call a white label brokerage. What they do is they come in, they do all the back end stuff for you. They do all the marketing for you, everything else. They create the brand for you.
Right.
You just sell. So it's almost like New Western, but they give you some ownership to it.
Right.
And when I was doing this one, when I was building this one, we're thinking about creating this one, they're like, hey, they presented their whole thing and said, well, we do all this for you. And I said, I know, but I've done that before. Yeah, I can do it myself. And they're like, you can't do it like we can. And you can't this and you can't. And I was like, I wanted to say, hold my beer. That's what I
watch me,
right? And so I was like, bye. You can leave now. But so for you, starting, going from there, creating your own, but it's yours. What's been the most challenging so far?
Well, if you do something for so long, you have certain habits.
Yeah. Right.
You have a certain expectation. You have a certain way of doing things. And that's been my challenge. Okay. It's changing that and reframing my mind and finding a new way, finding a different way, learning, a traditional way.
Yeah.
The way we used to do it was non-traditional.
Yeah.
And so my goal is not to do it the way I had done it before.
Okay.
And so that's the challenge right there, is finding this way to create this brokerage that is my own.
Yeah.
And really, all I'm seeing is just opportunity. It's like, okay, well, how do I really want this to be?
Yeah.
You know, what do I really want it to look like? Where are the windows of opportunity? How can I make this brokerage something, a place and a space for people to come in, to grow, to level up, right? Yeah. This is what I really want. That's what I've always been about.
Yeah.
Is creating an environment and being a leader, that's somebody that can not only rely on, but can be led in a direction that's going to help them grow, right. You know, selflessly, you know, and think about people's, you know, goals and dreams and what they want to accomplish as well. So I want to create that not only for my agents, but also for the customers we do business with, for our right. clients, you know. So that's really what I'm working on developing right now, cool. And building that foundation. But I'm taking it slow, you know. Yeah. I'm taking it slow. No need to rush, right. And one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. You know, I have a project going on with my brother. I want that, you know, I want to give that my attention. And, you know, like, you know, faith in God has been a real cornerstone to you know, my growth. And you know, I give all credit to God guiding me and sending the Holy Spirit upon me to help me make the right decisions along the way. So he's never steered me wrong. And so I've given my business, you know, up to God and say, hey, God, do what you want with it. Allow me to make the best decisions, bring on the right people, and grow it to be something special, you know, and I believe it will be. So, you know, whatever challenges that are, you know, coming up, then just deal with them one at a time. No need to get so far ahead and start thinking about, you know, fighting battles that aren't there.
True. So I tell my wife, I was like, don't worry about things that haven't happened yet.
Yeah, it hasn't happened, man. Just where we at?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Right on.
She hates that saying. I tell her that all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah. So you talked about, in a roundabout way, about legacy, mm-hmm. right? Talking about where you want to go with your brokerage. What do you see yourself like when? Now I hate the word of like retirement. I'm not thinking about that.
I don't think I'm gonna retire.
No, I don't either. But like, where do you see yourself, say 10, 20 years from now?
That's a good question. Well, you know, I see myself in the development space, building communities, building mixed use
development and like real estate and
development.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is where I see that's been my goal.
Yeah.
Right. I got into real estate with the goal to become a real estate developer.
Okay.
You know, and going through that education experience, I realized anything's possible. Yeah. Right. But with a track record of success, with good character, right. And, you know, being trustworthy, you know, that's going to open up the doors to get there. But I want to create something for the city, for the people, where they can have a space, an environment that's going to promote growth, that's going to promote a healthy lifestyle, and give them all the things that they need to experience life and feel fulfilled. Yeah. So that's what I want to do in the future. 10, 20 years, I can see that happening. So in the meantime, it's to build this business, get it to be profitable and successful, sell it, and then move on.
Gotcha. I like it. Last question. All the things you've been through and all the successes that you have, you're talking to yourself, you know, your 18-year-old self. Mm-hmm. You see that person, you see you in this person. What do you tell them?
What do I want to tell them?
Yeah, what do you tell them?
Hey, man, get your shit together. You know, there's a better way.
Yeah.
There's a better way. You know, and anything's possible, you know, because I think that's the thing, is that at that age, I didn't know what the way was, you know.
We don't know what we don't know.
We don't know what we don't know. I didn't know what the way was. I was like, you know, so I was like, okay, well, let me go this way. And it was the wrong way, and there was all the bad decisions. and it's to, you know, also to be disciplined, to be hungry for discipline, because that was another thing that we lacked, you know. At that time when I wasn't with any adults, and I was the adult, I was around a bunch of other kids my age, 16, 17, 15 years old. We're making a bunch of bad decisions. We're out there hustling, selling drugs. We're doing everything, carrying guns. I mean, we're menace to society, right? There's no discipline. There's no discipline, you know, and we think this is the only way. This is what we're given. This is what we have. This is our only way, but it's not the only way. There's a better way, you know, but it's through discipline. It's through education that you can do it. And I'd like myself to know, is like, man, there's a better way. Go to college, go to school, build up your mind, become disciplined, work out, get in shape, you know, get away from the people that you're around, change your environment, be around good people that want to grow, people that want to be better, you know, find that path, get on it fast.
Well, I think you're doing exactly that from just my limited view of you, and through your story and whatnot, through your kids, through your family, your relationship with your wife, through all the people you've influenced just at New Western for that amount of years. I mean, you had to, you know, impact people there, and you're going to do it within your brokerage,
Right on.
you know, and you do it with your consistency of, you know, working out, you know, the people that you work out with, from what I see, you know what I mean? Like we influence when we're not really, we don't see it.
Right.
We don't see how we influence. We just, like you said, we have to put our best foot forward. We got to, you know, keep improving. And then hopefully we impact and we influence those people around us. That way you're doing exactly what you just talked about, telling yourself through your action.
Right on.
So
thank you,
bro. I applaud you, bro.
Appreciate you. Thank you, bro.
I wish you the best with your new business, with your flip. Look forward to seeing how that comes out, with your family and everything that you're into, bro. And I want to thank you for giving me the time and to let you tell your story and to being on the podcast, bro.
Right on, man. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Wish
you much success as well.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.